In every record there's a story to be told. Into the world of music and more. Music and melodies and memories are in store. From Elvis to polka, we have it all. And Kenny's music and more, you'll have a ball. You'll have a ball. You'll have a ball.
What did you say?
Okay, and we are on.
Fantasy football. Hello.
You're on.
Cheers, everybody. Good evening. It's Sunday night, and we are here for another episode. It's been a month. Do you miss me?
It's been like 2 weeks.
It's been 2 weeks. I wish it was only that long. But we have another great episode tonight, so thanks for watching. Our record this week, if you noticed online, I kind of gave a little plug already online. I have chosen to do A Love Supreme by John Coltrane. And so, without further ado, I'll tell you why I picked John Coltrane. John, I've seen this record many times over the years, and selling records, I buy collections, and I would sell the copy, never really paying attention to this. It's jazz. I was never a jazz person. Some of these people are going to talk about this tonight, but I'm willing to give everything a shot. And as I was finding some other copies, I literally even found a copy for Brad here about 4 years ago. I think I made a trade with Brad. I had a early 60s edition. Mid-60s. It was mid-60s, but it was an early Columbia House or like
It was ABC Record Club.
a record club kind of copy. And so he had traded me a really nice Elvis piece. Was it within a couple minutes there?
Yeah, 2 minutes.
And it was a great trade, and still never really paid attention to the record. Over the years, I go to many of the stores. I'll see it oftentimes too, as records started coming back, 8-10 years ago. I would look, and as I go through Kohl's or go through Target, I would always see this album here, right? A Love Supreme, John Coltrane. Still never really apprehended really what it was, even though I've seen it everywhere. And so, fast forward here, rewind a little bit here, probably what do we got, about a month or two ago, I was listening to a channel somewhere, and the person on the radio started talking about John Coltrane, and they said that John Coltrane has a really interesting story in that he was in the 50s. He would play for Miles Davis, and he was on Miles Davis Band, and he got really addicted to alcohol and drugs and heroin and a lot of bad things, and he was really starting to tank, okay, and he was having a lot of problems, and so much so that Miles Davis kicked him off of his band, okay. Well, then in 1957, he licks the drug habit, finds his faith, and kind of starts growing back and starting to do a lot of music. Well, in 1964, he comes up with the idea for this record, and some of the things that I kind of told them already too is that in the process of this, a lot of times jazz is, improv. They're making a lot of it up as they go, and it was the first thing that I found that he literally even wrote notes down for. So he was working on this piece, and he has 4 various verses in the song. And so in it, they were saying that when he wrote this in 1964, it was his dedication to God because of how God had changed his life and got him off of drugs. And so coincidentally, if you didn't know, the drugs had played such a hard toll on his body that he dies at the age of 40. Okay, so he doesn't even really get to live a long life. But this album goes on from there and becomes very successful, so much so that one of the reasons why I've seen it everywhere is because it has sold over 500,000 copies now to this day. Some people have said it's maybe one of the greatest jazz records ever. Other people have said, right, it's a must for your collection. Other people have even said that this record should go down as one of the greatest jazz albums of all time, if not at least after World War II. So after hearing all of this one day, I said, okay, well, I've got to go listen to this because I've always been very interested in Christian music. It's always been one of my go-tos, especially in the mid-90s. And one of these times, I think I keep wanting to go back and find some of those albums and play them for these guys so I can play one. And actually, what they were saying afterward when we got into our debrief after the record tonight kind of inspired me too. Maybe I should go into one of those for one of my next picks. But so I've always kind of, from the mid-90s on, I've always kind of been inspired by listening to Christian music, and even in the various forms of it, even so much so that I was reading a book one time and it said that, hey, there's some old great classical pieces that you should listen to. For example, Mendelssohn and Elijah and St. Matthew's Passion by Bach. And so I literally went and found those pieces way back in the 90s and I played them. And it was funny because listening to like Mendelssohn, I was sitting there listening and I never realized the Hallelujah chorus. I had heard it my whole life. And I'm like, oh, that's where this piece comes from, Hallelujah. And so when you hear that, like, for me, I've always been inspired to then listen to some of these things by hearing these suggestions and knowing that its basis was in its Christian roots. And so for me, that's how I came upon this here only a few months ago, and it's the reason why I wanted to play this. We don't probably do a lot of jazz on here, and I don't know if we ever will again, but I thought at least it would be something that would be a great listen to, because a lot of people have liked this item, and this album, and it actually inspired some great discussion here. And so I will let Brad go to it right now and talk about this record.
First.
I'll go to Brad first because Brad was the one I traded this album with many years ago.
Yeah, I actually had a different copy, and I wound up getting an older copy through Kenny. So I picked this record up because it was considered a jazz classic, and after listening to rock music for a long time, I guess I was ready for a different challenge or something. And so I started collecting a few jazz things, and then I learned very quickly that there's only certain things that I liked. It's a very narrow path for jazz and this guy. I will also say this, and just like there are different forms of rock music, there's heavy metal, there's punk, there's pop, and there's all these different, dare I say, yacht rock, because that always comes up in some of our conversations. But there's different kinds of jazz. There's hard bop, there's traditional jazz, and the thing that caught me about Coltrane was that he was in the free jazz movement, which is a lot of improvisation, and just it almost sounds like a jam. It's almost like, okay, guys, we're going to play in the key of G, and then we might move to this chord here. So he might have wrote a chart or something. I don't know, but they just kind of went off on that, and that's what's so appealing to the jazz people, is that he kind of opened this door for all this improvisation in jazz music. It wasn't maybe just like a certain pattern or something of chords. It opened the door for just like total expression. And so I look at this record as the free jazz style, and it's more about what's coming out of his heart or soul, if you will. That's why on first listen you might go, what is going on here? And you're trying to follow, where's this going? I'm following the drums, and then something else happens in a different time signature. So it is challenging. If you haven't listened to jazz before, it can be a challenge. And this is one of those records that, yes, a lot of people recommend this, and also Miles Davis, Kind of Blue would be another one. And I will also say this, his wife Alice Coltrane made records too, and even more so, I think they were considered free jazz. If you think this is out there, so to speak, her records, I think, were even more so. And
I
so
don't think
anyway,
I've ever seen one even.
yeah, I actually think the store has a CD of Alice Coltrane's. Yes.
Oh.
Yeah. So anyway, John Coltrane, great saxophone player, of course, played with Miles Davis on Kind of Blue, I believe, and just a lot of respect for that whole genre of music, because as a musician, it challenges me and it makes me think, how did they come up with this? You know, what you know, how did it all evolve? And so anyway, that's my little take on it. And there is one more thing, if I digress. It's on the Impulse label. It's my favorite 60s label for jazz. Probably my favorite jazz label, and Verve maybe. But Impulse had this mindset in the 60s. Thank you, Clint, for bringing that up. John Coltrane playing tenor sax here. Of course, you can see the instruments. But Impulse was this kind of like hotbed for all this jazz in the 60s. And it's just such a cool label. They have a lot of neat stuff.
That's out of New Jersey, right?
Not everything on Impulse is great, but I'm just saying it's one of my favorite labels. What was it?
And I'm trying to think there. I think that label is in New Jersey, if I'm correct. Impulse.
I think it was actually distributed by ABC Records for quite a while. I'm not, you know, and then MCA later on. So I just went off on this, but I think it. You know, a lot of people listen to music and then they look for something different, maybe. And if you have an inkling to like try jazz, this is one of those albums that somebody might steer you to first. And A Kind of Blue is also an entry point. I would also say that maybe Dave Brubeck's Take 5 might be another entry point.
Another very popular one that
jazz.
sells in the store here a lot. And if I had to say, me as a seller, you know, I've sold every copy of this within a week that I've had out. And I sell Dave Brubeck Take 5. I got a lot of other Dave Brubeck out. The only one that seems to sell, I mean, is that one, you know. And what were you going to say?
Well, I was going to say, it's interesting that you said that somebody who's new to jazz could have a hard time following this album, because I'm not new to jazz, but I also found myself just kind of, I don't know, disoriented with this one. And I find it interesting that so many people get steered to this as an entry-level album. You know, like I could follow Dave Brubeck. But yeah, I mean, to steer somebody towards such improvisational jazz where they're used to music with a structure that they can kind of anticipate what's next, and then you throw this at them, and it's like, well, I don't know if you win a lot of people over for jazz with this album that way, depending on what their expectations are, I would say.
Yeah, I think that's fair. It's just in its style and for Coltrane, I think this is one of his greatest pieces, you know. So
Yeah, and this is going to be the one that really puts him on the map, of course, especially selling that many copies. It said that most of his records sold about 30,000 copies, and so this one is going to sell like 500,000. So obviously you can tell, right, it's going to be a lot bigger in scope. One of the other things I was kind of interested in when I was looking at some of the other information for this is that also on the inside, he was the one who picked out the inside of the covers. He loved this little drawing. He added that in there, and there's a poem in there. And he talks about in there some of his faith and how he got to his point. And the big thing I really wanted to stress with that, it kind of is just that to him, he didn't want to really make too much of a religious stress on it, but he wanted people just to understand that he's just giving his thanks to God. You know, no other names, you know, but that God was so pivotal in helping him get to this point, and that he really wanted to stress that, you know, into it. And so within it, you also see the poem that he wrote, and one of the ends, as we look at the song itself, so there's 4 different verses, and within those verses, we find that we see that there's the acknowledgement, then we have the resolution, and then we have the third one is called the pursuance, and the fourth one is called the psalm. And so in the end of the first verse, right, he says, you know, he goes on, a love supreme, and then we don't get any other lyrics and any way through it. And within this, we've had some debates even going through about the piece itself because of some of the various sounds that are going on with it. So we hear drums, We've got a sax. We've got a bass. Anything else that I'm missing? Piano. The piano. And so I loved Lance's comments, Lance, and tell us what you felt about this.
I'm just not a jazz guy. Like,
And that's okay.
I feel like jazz
It's
drums
okay.
just make me anxious. Like, I've listened to jazz albums at work, and it's just like I find myself working faster and faster, and also I'm like, what in the world? Why am I like? Why is my heart rate up 10 times? Like, what is going on here? This one wasn't as bad. I definitely like the B side more than the A side, especially like that. I don't know, whatever the number 4
The end of
was,
4.
right? Like the bass leading into like the sax coming in. That was nice. That was actually a very nice piece. As far as jazz albums, this one wasn't as bad as some I've listened to, but I'm just, I don't know. I'm not a jazz guy. I'd rather have my guitars and my vocals in, more
Lyrics. I love lyrics. Good
more
lyrics.
structured songs. I think that's just where I don't know. That's my preference. I think when
It's
it comes to
interesting.
music.
When we got to the part where the bass comes in, then you and I both said, now we get to the good part.
Yeah, well, it was interesting. Like that part hit, and all the conversation like kind of stopped. Like I don't know if everyone was digging it as much as.
So hold
Brad
up,
and I were kinda
hold up
geeking out,
the fold again, because on the graphic, I had those cut into 2 different pieces, but so it's all one insert in there.
Oh, and I should say, I'm going to pull this out real quick because this is kind of deflecting here a little bit. So this is a Japanese obi strip. The version of this, there's many different versions of this album that you're going to find. And the version here that I have is, I bought a Japanese obi, and this is just something that I've started collecting. And when I found this version, I was very enthused to find this and buy
Were
this
you
copy.
jazzed, Kenny?
Oh man, wow. So
Yeah.
I'm just curious on the term obi, because as a martial artist, obi is your belt. Does obi on a Japanese press, does it refer to that
Yeah.
actual? It refers to
Yeah,
belt.
sure.
Okay.
Yep.
So that would explain that
Sash.
terminology. Yeah, sash. Yeah.
Yeah, so this is a version that I found. I cleaned it, and I played it, and of course I was listening to it a few times here over the last month, and so I just really found it interesting. Obviously, it's something you gotta find that spot, where you can just sit down and enjoy that and just rest and relax and listen to it. It's not there's no lyrics, as we said.
You can relax when you listen to this. I don't believe it. I don't believe it.
Right? What do you think, Josh?
Jazz, I think you either like jazz or you don't like jazz. I've lots of musicians over the years. I've had lots of friends that are musicians, and I've had lots of them that have played jazz. I had several friends that went to Morehead State and played jazz. Some people that when I worked here in the music business, we had a lot of jazz guitar players from BSC who would come into the shops and try to convert me. I was actually gifted this record by one of those guys. Told me that this is the one you have to listen to. So that's, you asked earlier how I ended up with it. It was gifted to me and I listened to it. There are things about jazz that I appreciate. The fact that the improvisation of jazz is very impressive to me. Just the ability for people to be that nuanced and that skilled in their instrument and their craft to be able to do that. It's remarkable. We don't see a lot of that. A lot of the cookie cutter music sets, right? So chorus, verse, bridge, chorus. Some of the people that I've liked have always been influenced by jazz. Frank Zappa was very influenced by
U2.
jazz. I don't think without jazz in the 40s and 50s, we end up with prog rock from the 60s, 70s, and on. So we have to tip, whether you like it or not, it's kind of irrelevant because you have to tip your hat to the ability, to the genre itself, because it did have a very big influence on pretty much everything that's come after it at some point. So Even though it's not my thing, I do appreciate jazz and don't mind listening to it. Unlike my friend Mike here, who probably has not.
Here's what I'll say about it. It's not only the worst jazz album I've ever heard, but it's the best one I've ever heard.
Oh,
Okay.
I see what you did there.
So, I mean,
He's been working on that line for an hour now.
I don't know. Didn't resonate with me. It's not going to.
And that's okay.
I mean, I can again. I'll respect the musician, any artistry, but
Not your thing.
it wasn't my thing.
Well, there's listening to jazz out of appreciation, and there's listening to jazz out of enjoyment, and those are two very
all it
different
reminds
things.
me is some guy in a beret sitting in a coffee shop somewhere, drinking his latte and
With his
sitting in
finger
a
pinky
corner.
out.
Just,
It does make sense. I was going to just point out, too, that I was reading some other people, too, have been influenced by this album. U2, in fact, Angel of Harlem, they actually make a direct quote within that song to John Coltrane, and A Love Supreme. Santana has also been influenced by them, or him, right? So, just like you said, yeah, so there are a lot of people who have really, really resonated with this album. And I would say that I was kind of thinking about how do you think this, as we go into a genre, how does this spin off into jazz fusion, jazz rock?
Yeah, I think some of that
It's
came
like-
later, but
Yep.
yeah.
like Supertramp was like jazz rock, but then they became yacht rock in the early '80s.
Pop rock, then
And
yacht
then it
rock.
was pop rock, yacht rock.
Steely Dan.
Steely Dan was they were like the purveyors of jazz yacht fusion.
Jazz rock. Mike is really,
Oh.
he's on a roll tonight in this episode.
There have been some interesting yacht rock conversations between the stacks in this store with customers I'd never seen before, just whatever. You say yacht rock, and that is a rear-facing genre, right? That went in the heyday of that music, and for decades after, there was never such a thing as yacht rock until some yahoos on YouTube came up with that and retroactively applied it. But be that as it may, we don't want to go down that rabbit hole again. Not tonight.
We discuss this a lot. There's as we look at kind of like what he mentioned earlier, that there's right, music morphs and it spins, and it's always kind of borrowing and playing off each other. And so as you have hard rock, then obviously at some point, right, we're going to morph into soft rock. And so by the end of the 70s, we see some people who are taking rock and combining jazz elements like Steely Dan. And so we kind of got into that. That's how some of this within our conversations is kind of led. And the jazz is great. And one of the things I wanted to say too and make a note of is that not all jazz is even valued the same, especially even for me as a seller. And so when I put jazz out, I've got large sections and very few pieces sell. Okay? And the reason why is everybody wants jazz before the 70s. Nobody wants jazz after the 70s. Or I should say limited. No, I shouldn't say no one.
That might be a regional specific problem, though.
Okay.
So, like, jazz in North Dakota isn't going to sell. Jazz in Arizona sells.
Oh, there you go.
So, I mean, the bigger populace, the more you have, more expanse.
Makes
You know,
sense.
Diverse.
There's we'll have one section of jazz here. Electric Fetus had like 4 sections of jazz and jazz records on the wall. So
Okay.
you
Let
know,
me ask you this. Then you were going. So you mentioned that this album might make a list of
must-haves.
must-haves. Do you think a lot of people that are curate this stuff because they think I've got to have that in my collection just for the
I
sake
think there's some of
having
that.
it?
Appreciation, not enjoyment.
Right. Just bulking up their I'm
Yeah,
into
I think there's an
vinyl.
element of that.
I'm into vinyl, and it's this.
It's on the list.
It's a different media. And I should have this. I should have this jazz album. I should have jazz. I should have blues. You know, how much of that is people just bulking up their collections for the sake of thinking they've got to have it?
Some of that's there for sure. I mean, you go the top 50 or the top 100 records that every vinyl collector should have, and people will go down and buy that list. I know people, jazz people, that have all of these records, right? They'll have this one, they'll have Miles Davis, they'll have all those things, but they will rattle off some artist that you've never heard of, or some record from an artist that we heard of that's very obscure, and something that will be their favorite record. So a lot of jazz aficionados, I shouldn't say this because I don't know for sure, but I would imagine that a lot of jazz aficionados kind of steer away from this stuff. The popular, the super popular, the ones that everybody gravitated toward or everybody had to have, and they would find other things, kind of like we've done, you and I've done with rock, right? And kind of steer away from kind of the mainstream stuff, and you find this more obscure stuff that kind of meets. I think all genres of music have that. So
Jazz is so best experienced live. I think in a case of something like this, if you're talking somebody who's doing vinyl, a lot of times you may be talking about an audiophile who actually has a decent system which can approximate the live feeling. Like old jazz like that, I would rather listen to it on either a single tinny little speaker and feel nostalgic about it, or on a really nice system where I can try and approximate a live performance of it, just because of the nature of what jazz is.
So what would you think about some other artists? If we look at jazz as a genre, obviously we say Coltrane, we mentioned Brubeck, Miles Davis is a huge one. Anything Miles Davis that I have tends to sell. I actually have a couple CDs in right now. About 3 weeks ago, a guy came down. He said he was looking for some Miles Davis CDs, and I only had one in at that time. And then, of course, now I found a couple more. But what else would you think, Brad?
Well, again, there's different
Alice?
styles of jazz too. I mean, if you go back to Benny Goodman, Duke Ellington, some of those jazz greats, Glenn Miller maybe fits into that, all that, and which is more big band, but still gravitates into the jazz thing. But and as much as I do like '60s jazz, I steer clear of a lot of that stuff. It's just not something that I like. And I don't like the 70s stuff too much, although there are handfuls of of records that I do like. And it's just, maybe I've made it so narrow as for what I like and what I don't like. But I was thinking Stan Getz, Jazz Samba,
Oh, yes, I get
is
some.
one of my... I might even like that better than the John Coltrane record, but there's certain jazz records that I really like. I like George Benson's White Rabbit, which is a 70s record. I love the way he reinterpreted those songs.
Correct.
It's just really cool. I'm trying to think of a few others. I'm off the cuff.
Chuck, you listen to him much or no? Mike?
No, yeah, I'm not.
Chuck Mangione?
No, that's not my cup of tea. No.
How about so like when I hit college in the 80s, I really got into fusion jazz, which some people might not even want to even say that in the same breath as like this album, but there sometimes, like late at night, I just like a modern, just a jazz fusion album too. I mean, everybody's got their tastes, and it's about the experience. So,
I mean, another 70s is Herbie Hancock.
Oh, Herbie.
Yep.
Was
Yep.
well
That is one I saw a lot. Forgot about him.
well regarded.
I didn't really
But the
appreciate him
60s
till Rocket, mid 80s. Of course, I was just a kid.
The 60s, I don't know, for some reason just has an appeal to me, and it seems to be where I land. I just like what was going on.
And many others.
And there were so many things happening where they were exploring. And we can get into some real out there stuff like Sun Ra and some of that stuff, which is very almost experimental,
Yep.
So it has its own, and then the thing is, it may not be for you, but it doesn't hurt to try it a little bit and say, I don't know if that's for me, and I don't. It doesn't work for me, and
Especially now when you can listen to anything, you can
Yeah.
try anything for free.
right,
We
exactly.
we had to buy the stuff to try it.
We had to buy it and be disappointed at $15 at a
I
shop.
paid $15 for this.
Or if you're lucky, you heard it, a piece of it on the radio,
Right.
or a friend had the album, and you got to you put your ear on it, and
Yeah.
that was, yeah,
Not particularly pertaining to jazz, but when you mentioned that, growing up in the Northern Plains, where we had at the time we had Y93 for top 40. We had at that time 94 was the rock album station, and that was kind of it. We had a country station. I had a lifeline that I met over what later became the internet, because I was a bit of a hacker in the 80s. Was this guy who ended up actually DJing for KEXP for a while out in Seattle. But what I would do is I would buy a box of Denon D90 cassettes, and I would send them out, and he would get all these just amazing import 12-inch vinyl of just all kinds of different stuff. And of course, we were talking at that point, 80s alternative, industrial, some techno, things like that. And he would just make these mixtapes and send them back to me, and boy, what a lifeline, because otherwise, you go down to Music Land and it's $15 to $18 for a single CD. I couldn't afford that at the time, so it's a rough one.
Yeah, and that's a great point to make too. And when you talk about music and how easy it is for people to access it nowadays.
And not just accessible to find John Coltrane, but now just think of the new artists out there that are not being gatekeepered by record labels and radio stations anymore. The democratization of music, you can find whatever you want out there, and you can get your music heard as a performer now.
I remember many years ago, I was teaching at school, and there was a young girl who had her parents fund a record for her so that she could do a song, and it went monster all across the country. It would have never done otherwise, right back in the day. Rebecca Black. Do y'all remember that song? Friday, Friday, gonna get down on Friday.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
So it was a huge.
This sounds made up.
No, it's a thing. It hit when I was in high school. That's the only reason I know what Kenny's talking about.
It was all the high school kids that I worked
think
with.
You have it.
They're going nuts, and I'll still play it at school from time to
Yeah,
time,
you would.
just to be funny with the kids.
Same thing, the Russian artist Alsu. I think that was the same deal. Her dad or somebody was an oligarch that said, okay, you want a music career? Here you go. We're in Russia.
Right? Well, hey, I think it's a good time to morph into our records. What do you think? Let's go. Since I started this whole thing earlier, I'll start out with my album. This album, people have come into the store and they have threatened me because I have played this record too much, over and over and over again. This album, I am so mesmerized by this album. The minute I start hearing it, it puts me on a deep dive where I might start listening to it for a month straight again, and I'm not lying, over and over again. No record I don't think has ever hit me as deep as this album by Bob Dylan. And the funny thing is, Brad can probably remember this. A few years ago, I was sampling this for the Antique Mall because I used to grade all my records, and this record, as I was listening to grade it, I listened to the first song, and I didn't know anything about Bob Dylan at the time. I always just hated his voice, kind of never really paid attention to him. And I'm listening to You Gotta Serve Somebody, and I'm going, man, it's kind of Christian when you think about this, and I was listening to it. Then I get to the second song, and I was going, wow, this really, really sounds, Christian. It was called Precious Angel, okay? And so on that song, I'm going, man, this sounds like a Christian song. And by the third song, I get there and I say to myself, it's like, I believe in you. I'm going, this has got to be a Christian album. So I pick up the album and I look at the cover and I'm seeing the artwork and the cross on the hammer here. And then I'm looking on the back of the cross sail. I'm going, so I called Brad And I don't know if Brad remembers that. And I'm like, is this a Christian album? And he goes, yeah. He goes, Kenny, he did 3 albums. He did a little Christian phase. And so, of course, then I had to find all 3 of them and put them into my collection. And so that kind of led me onto a Bob Dylan. And now I've actually started to appreciate his voice. And
Just not live.
I went to his concert here earlier this year. And, of course, I got a little upset because obviously he just hid behind his piano the whole time. It was a great sound. It was great. But
Because he didn't play like a Rolling Stone.
I wouldn't have minded if I was hoping. I was like, God, please just let him play one song from this album. It didn't work though, but I was trying to petition.
Actually, what you don't know, what we didn't tell you, is I actually called Bob.
We phoned in our
I
favors.
said,
Yeah.
this Kenny's coming down, and
Just don't.
No, it's so.
Well, I remember,
Sides and deep cuts.
I remember seeing something on YouTube. I don't know. Maybe it was this album. Maybe it was one of those others where they were interviewing people that had come out of a Bob Dylan concert, and they were just pissed because he was playing more faith-themed material, and they're like, they wanted to go see like a Rolling Stone and all that stuff, and they come out like, I didn't want to get preached to, and they were just ticked at that.
Yeah, they were mad, very upset, and so he will move on from that after the 3rd record, and he'll allude to it from time to time if you ask him. But yeah, he kind of like now steers more towards his mainstream.
Jeez, how do I follow that? I kind of dropped the ball on this. I forgot what album I even picked. And I think my plan was to listen to this album and talk about it. And I did not get around to that. But I got really into the Guess Who in like college. I heard one of their songs on the radio, No Time. And I went out and I bought their greatest hits on iTunes. And I know, right? I've grown since, right? So like I listened to the greatest hits, and I'm like, oh whoa, there's a lot more songs that they
Did
do.
you listen to American Woman and No Sugar Tonight all over and over again?
No, so I hear all these songs and some that I didn't know, and I'm like, these guys actually have a lot more songs than I know. So that's we have their like whole discography in our collection. I just haven't gotten around to listening to all of them. I've listened to more of the early stuff. I was telling Brad more of like your Canned Wheat and your Wheatfield Soul. Sure. So I haven't gotten into as much of their older stuff as I'd like to. So I was trying to do a thing, and then I failed at my thing. So.
Before the night's over, we have to listen to Rain Dance.
Okay, I'm here
you
for
go.
it. I bet you I've heard it. When I heard you singing it a bit, I'm like, I think I've heard.
No,
like,
you said
yeah.
don't sing anymore. No,
I would never. I'd never ask you not to sing.
The one song on that One Man Army was the one that they brought back my experience of buying an 8-track player as like a 10-year-old kid at a rummage sale, and it came with some 8 tracks, and that happened to be one of them. And so I remembered when I saw that song was on there. That's got to be what that 8-track was. I never knew. So mystery solved.
Mystery solved.
I chose David Bowie's Diamond Dogs. More of a nostalgia thing. Those are reversed there, you can see, but it's actually one painting, and I hope I get the guy's name pronounced right. Guy Peelart did the artwork, also did It's Only Rock and Roll for the Rolling Stones. But the 1974, summer of 74, I was 14 years old. I put all the money I had together and took my bike and went over to Kirkwood Mall and went to Music City and grabbed, they had the top 50 albums on the wall, on the chart. And I grabbed number 5, which was this album. And that's all I listened to pretty much the summer of 1974. So it has more of a memory to me of nostalgia than anything. Just a little bit about the record. It is kind of a failed effort. The widow of George Orwell would not give Bowie the rights to do a musical based on 1984. So he had these leftover songs and kind of cobbled the album together and made something of it. And it was kind of a pivotal time because the next phase would be this plastic soul phase he would work into. But this was the last of the really hard rock of the 70s, and then he was shifting and moving on to something else. But so but it still has, I think, a lot of classic tracks like Rebel Rebel and Diamond Dogs, and definitely worth the 70s Bowie canon.
I don't have any of those. I just had to pick something because I had to pick something. No, but I did pick Girls' School, Play Dirty. They're an all-girl. Started out in 1978. New wave of British heavy metal. They're kind of one of their most notable things. They kind of teamed up with Motorhead in the early 80s. So they were friends with Lemmy and those guys. They did an EP with Motorhead called St. Valentine's Day Massacre. That's probably kind of their most notable thing. But this is just, this is kind of their... This is kind of, you can tell it's more of a attempt at a commercial breakthrough just in how it's produced. It's got a cool cover of T-Rex, 20th Century Boy. I don't know. That's what it is. It's Girls' School. They're still active, so.
Mine was Eric Clapton, Behind the Sun. Anybody that's watched this show for more than 10 minutes probably knows that I'm an Eric Clapton fan. This record is not the greatest Eric Clapton record. She's Waiting is on here. Knock on Wood is on here. Tangled in Love. This was produced by Ted Templeman. Most people would recognize that name most famously for Van Halen. A very commercialized album. Clapton had kind of gone a different direction with his music in the mid 80s to make it more commercial. Kind of lost some of the blues influence. It's still there, but they were much more commercial, and nowhere else will you find Phil Collins playing the shaker on several tracks.
I gotta have it now.
On Behind the
Sold.
Sun. Yes.
Totally sold. Okay, so after completely laying an egg in the last show with the Miami Vice soundtrack, I decided to double down. So originally I picked the Miami Vice soundtrack
I don't
too.
know. I gotta say
but-
that my John Coltrane made that sound like.
Okay, well, okay, good point.
Oh,
No, but okay, so
Give me
I
new
went with
appreciation for Miami
a K-Tel.
Vice.
So I came in the shop today, and a customer had put this on the turntable, and I was like, so it played the 38 special, and then it went from that into I think Foreign or Urgent, and I was like, wait a minute, like 1983, the only time I ever heard those songs back to back was on the hit list by K-Tel. So I ran over to the turntable, and sure enough, here this sucker is. And so I'm like, oh my gosh. So I called an audible. I put the Miami Vice 2 soundtrack back in the stacks. and I grabbed this. But, so, okay. To lead into this, I want to key in on something Brad said. He hopped on his bike. He rode to the store. He plunked his money down, and then he listened to that album for that summer. I had the same sort of experience when I was like 9 years old. I must have traded marbles and Hot Wheels or whatever. That was the only currency I had at the time for Ace Frehley's solo album from a friend of mine. And I listened to that album, yeah, nice shirt, all summer long. Now, and then, now, Mike, you alluded to, $15 to take a gamble on an album. As a little kid, I got into music really early, but I didn't have the means to purchase it. Even when I was in junior high or even high school, because I was in athletics and academics and all this crap, I didn't have time for a part-time job, which means I didn't have any money. So if I did, it would be something like one of these K-Tel albums. And this again goes back to the time when we had, very few channels. If you had cable TV, maybe your TV went up to 13, and you had 3 radio stations. But they would sell these K-Tel records on TV. They'd run a 2-minute commercial.
Yes.
Talking about all the songs that are on the K-Tel, K-T-E-L. I guess maybe that's where the tel comes from. And so your best bang for your buck for as a kid would be to buy something with as many hits. So this it's a 2-record set, 22 of 1982's biggest hits. 38 Special, Van Halen, Foreigner, The Who, Tommy Two-Tone, Huey Lewis, Aretha Franklin, Kool and the Gang, Hall & Oates, Pat Benatar, Police, Billy Squire, Pointer Sisters, REO, Rick Springfield, Little River. I mean, it was pretty loaded. And I'm sentimental enough about these albums. There were only a couple that I had that I actually went to Discogs, got the artwork, and then got digital copies of all the songs that were on these, and then just assembled my own, just changed out the album work on those digitally and threw them in my iPod. So I have my old K-Tel albums that I can play as playlists or as albums on there, because it goes back to music as an experience. And so this K-Tel album was a slice of my adolescence, and musically we tend to key in on the music of our adolescence, to the point of, like I said, I was looking through the stacks earlier, and when I heard those two songs in that order, it took me back over 40 years to this album. It's like, you gotta be kidding me. Walked over there, and there it is. So, I mean, there's a lot wrapped up in this album, and K-Tel is long gone, but they were incredibly prolific. I mean, the wacky westerns where they had all the Tennessee Birdwalk and all the goofy western songs, Goofy Greats. They did some of those, but then they did a lot of these hit records. They did a lot of genre records. I don't do the genre thing. I have this soft G because I'm cultured. But they did the genre records. They did these mega hit records and things. And so yeah, this was a really cool experience just this very afternoon. To all of a sudden, hey, wow, I remember that album very well, and it took me back. So that was really cool. I had to grab that and say, okay, that's my record for tonight. So,
What you could have done is just saved it for next month.
oh no, I couldn't. I was too excited, and it really, I could always bring back Miami Vice 2 next month. So
When he said all summer long, I thought he was going to go on a Kid Rock tangent there.
no,
Was there just 2 Miami Vice, or did they do a trilogy?
well, so I happen to have a few Jan Hammer CDs. So Escape from Television and a couple others. So yeah, I wouldn't call it jazz.
Winner, Kenny.
Oh, should we pick?
Segment 3.
And now here's something you'll all enjoy.
A message from our sponsor.
And we're back.
Mike.
Karen Walzer.
Karen. She comes in a lot, very faithful customer. So thanks, Karen.
And the only actual vote written down was Diamond Dogs, so Brad wins.
Wow.
That is a first.
No, somebody told me they put this down.
They didn't.
Are you lying?
No,
Well,
they,
there's
must have
3.
intended.
And
they just want
That's
you to
one's
shut
blank,
up about
so-
Bob Dylan. They're like, fine, I'll write it on the ticket if you stop talking about it.
Well, we need to crack the whip on getting these customers to put in their vote, and of course it doesn't help that a couple of us have had our album shelf ripped from the walls mercilessly. So
That
no,
was him.
no chance that we could
They
ever
not
have
only
ours
need to
picked.
vote,
I think we need to put them right behind the counter.
but they need to watch.
Yeah, we could redo them all
Yeah,
where people can see them better.
Yep.
Yeah.
and then
Because
have
now
your-
they're kind of.
And we should put a little sign above it. We're thinking out loud here. Okay,
Yep.
so another spin, and then we can put our records there.
there you go, and then tune in to see if you've won,
Yeah, tune in. See
and exhort your minion to.
You got hey, if you got any
engage the
ideas,
customers on that.
leave any comments on here if you've been in here. And do we have any
Yeah,
comments?
we're really receptive to ideas.
We love ideas. Mike does especially.
All right, do we have any chat?
I'll listen to ideas.
I'm monitoring the live stream. You get the chat on your phone.
Oh, okay. So I'll let you go ahead while I try to find this.
And for those of you who are wondering, we did lock the door tonight, so we aren't going to have any crazy cat lady interruptions. But in the last one, we had Mike, who leapt like a gazelle from the couch here and was able to
Our
handle
protector
things.
and savior.
Yep.
He diffused the situation.
I don't know if the cat was ever found.
Kenny went out and looked for the cat.
Kenny
I went out and
for it.
looked because I'm a cat man. I love cats.
He brought out some catnip, and I saw him out there.
Ooh. So we're up to 17 subscribers now.
17
We're growing.
That's
And We're
Wow.
getting up there.
Oh.
First
Once we
5
get
months was 2.
Once we get to 20, 50% off anything in the store.
Hey, I don't know if I like this idea here. Slow your roll,
50%
jabroni.
off the store.
Is that coupon still valid, or was that just
That's
October?
a great idea.
Well, there's actually a new coupon coming up. So anybody here that's paying attention from the store, we are going to have a big sale here at the end of this month. We're going to do a progressive sale so that the more you buy, the bigger your discount will be, and we'll combine it on anything in the store. So if you buy one or two items, it'll be 10%. You're going to look for these in the, and I wish I should have grabbed one of these ads so that I could show you, but in your mail every quarter this year was a coupon book called the Prairie Finder. And in there's coupons, and it's one of the ways that I dedicated this year to getting out the name of music and more. I'm trying to find different ways, and I don't know if I'm going to do it again next year because I'm maybe want to experiment with a different venue next year. But trying different ways, and I know from me as a customer, I loved getting those coupon books and seeing what was in there for the month. And so it might have been even more personal, right, to see my coupon in that finder was. You know, I've got a couple of those framed at home, you know, on the wall.
I'm sure.
I don't even think I ever opened mine. I think it goes straight in the trash.
It goes straight.
Oh, man.
Well, you might want to save this one because what we're going to do on this one is we've got a few coupons in there, but there's one of them will be buy 1 or 2 items, get 10%, buy 3 or 4 items, get 15%, but if you buy 5 or more items, you'll get 25% off the order. And then the day following, that's Black Friday. And then there is a Saturday sale for Small Business Saturday, which will be just straight 15% off with that coupon all day. So come in Friday, Saturday, and we'll have some great deals down here. And
Mike will be here signing autographs.
Mike will
There
be.
you go. Yep.
Saturday.
With the shades.
Oh,
Right.
Yeah.
people did see. They were noticed. These guys, these 3 went to the record show. We must talk about this. Now tell us what happened.
They liked all of us and didn't say much about Kenny.
They said,
They were. They,
no,
No.
there was some. So the 3, Brad, Josh, and I went to the Fargo Record Fair last Saturday, which actually is the main part of the story.
yes.
People should go. It's a great
Yes.
event.
Yeah, it's just fun.
It happens. It's usually last weekend of every October. I've gone. Well, I didn't go last year, but like 6 years prior, and it's just a fun event. The Bismarck one is in May, so
Support your record
support
communities.
it.
Yeah, they
If
pull
you're
in.
looking for great thing about record fairs, you can find a lot of cheap stuff. If you're just looking for that, but you can also find
Stuff.
a lot of unique stuff that is somewhat hard to find because it's vendors coming from other states and
Yeah, it's a good opportunity to find stuff outside of your regional stores.
Yep.
You ever spot any hectic red? Pick it up for me.
I have a funny story that before we left, we all traveled in one vehicle, obviously, and we had a good time. But I thought Josh was pulling up to the to the store here where we met before we left, and Mike and I were out there, and I started walking toward this car, which I thought was Josh, and they're waiting for us to get in. And I opened the back door, and there's a woman sitting in the car. I'm sorry. She goes, oh, no, it's okay. She asked if we were here for the spading and neutering thing that was down the block here.
In the
Look
back
old
of
for
Kenny's
that.
And I
shop.
went,
Yeah.
no, we're just... And then she went on, she proceeded to say, I'm not weird. And I said, well, I'm not weird either. But anyway, it was a weird
The
morning.
situation was weird.
Right?
If you have to say you're not weird, you're probably a little weird.
Okay.
Right.
Yes, I do like a little bit.
That's a good point.
But it was just a comical start to the day.
But it wasn't. It was very cool for the people that shouted out that from the fair that said they watched the show. We appreciate the support.
That.
Yeah.
Make sure you
It was
comment.
definitely unexpected to have someone say,
Yeah,
"Hey, I like the
we
show."
like your show. If you're watching this afterwards, make sure to comment so we can give you a shout out, more personal shout outs in the next episode.
And watch for the when does the coupon book come out?
Yeah, and you know what? I'm going to try to
Came
do
out
too. I'm
about
going
a
to try to
month
find a
ago.
way to include
If
people.
anybody, I'll make copies of my coupons.
Yeah.
It's no problem.
Just if you don't get one, just post your email in the comments, and Mike will email you.
Yeah, I'm gonna find a way. Like, if you are watching online and you don't have access to the store here, if you're looking for something, email me. Okay, drop some comments on there. We'll go on there and I'll try to see, or call the store here. It's Music and More in Bismarck, North Dakota. I'm in. The only thing is, we're only in here the shop from Thursday through Sunday. So Thursday and Friday it's 2 to 6, Saturday 10 to 5, Sunday 12 to 5. And we will write it down, leave your contacts. We can send it to you. We can ship something to you. The goal is going to be, and always has been, that I'm going to have online items listed, but I'm still waiting on family. Maybe I shouldn't have went to family to help me do this, to get this website put out so that we can have some online listing. And that way even people from home could do some shopping without even have to come in here. And I think that would really increase sales a ton as well. So a lot of things. And obviously another thing too I'm trying to do is maybe even a few years down the road, even have move the location of this, or have another one up into the north side. One of the challenges of the store is I am so far out of the way down here because I wanted to buy a building and not rent, that I had to buy a shop condo way down in the south end by South Walmart. So it's out of the way. The only way you're going to find it is if you come here looking for it, for the most part. But some people have told me they found it just driving by and seeing the signs, that I put down on the ends of the road. So that's good. So
Our goal is just another spin merch store. That's all we got going. So
right.
There you go.
And I want to get some shirts in here, some Music and More shirts, and try to keep doing some more. And we keep growing in here. So I think with that, that's pretty much all we have
Lance
to
has
say.
got the last word tonight. Lance,
We have a comment.
you see us out. Oh, there's a comment.
Oh, comment.
Saved by a comment.
Yeah.
Save it up, Lance.
Ricky Too Tricky says, great album choice, Kenny. I did vote for Kenny's record last Saturday, just for the record. Okay.
Say, I told you.
It's not in here.
It's
Pun-
not in
pun
here,
intended.
Ricky.
Thank you.
So
Yeah, Ricky,
Thank you very much.
you.
Thank you very much.
Ricky.
Diamond Dog still won.
No, and hey, and I also want to give him a shout too. Like, he's been one of my best customers that's coming in, and he's bought a lot of records. He's been supporting me every week. Comes down here, and unfortunately, he's gonna move in a couple years. So hopefully, he stays as long as possible. He's from Texas, and unless I can get a branch down that way, I don't know. But obviously, he's been in here. We'll find a way to ship him to you, if you need to.
I think he should get $10 off too his next purchase.
You know what?
Yep.
He does. You got
There
it
we
too.
go.
There you go. It's on record.
Thank you very much. And Lance, they said you're going to see us
Last
out.
words.
I guess I'm closing us out. I am not saying anything cool. Just thanks for watching another episode of Another Spin. Next time up, we got B-Rad up in the house.
Oh, you're up.
It'll be a lot
Ooh.
better than whatever we listened to this John Coltrane.
John Coltrane.
Boy, not a lot of love for the John Coltrane.
Any hints, Brad? Teasers.
I'm kind of vacillating between 3 different albums, and I'm struggling to pick which one it is.
Listen
So-
to your heart.
But it will be.
What are you thinking?
It'll be
Can't tell you yet.
It'll be in the rock category.
Okay.
So as a guy who's got a vested interest, because I do these album graphics at the last minute, and it's sometimes stressful. For those of you who are watching this either live or later on, how much advance notice would you like for us to give you on the album which we feature? To give you time to listen to it just as we do. Because we meet down here at 6 o'clock, we listen to the album, tell a few goofy stories, and then we go live. So if you want the chance to listen to the album before hearing us blather about it, how much advance notice would you like us to give? And so let us know. And then by doing so, then you give me more time to make the graphics. So
What would your answer be, and why would it be 0 advance notice?
hey, there's been times when we first started this, I'm sitting here photoshopping while we're live.
But I also am a firm believer that if we advertise John Coltrane and you don't like John Coltrane, you don't watch the show because it's what it is, and then you miss the banter and all the other stuff. So that's why
I never thought of it that way.
I'm kind of the holdout. I gatekeep my record pick until right before we start the show.
Okay.
I feel like if there's too much advance notice, there's that curiosity. Like, well, maybe I should listen to this beforehand, and then I'll have better things to say. Where it's like, I kind of want to, like, if I haven't listened to it, I'd like to experience it here with you guys for the first
Man, let's
time.
face it, nobody's watching for John Coltrane. They're watching for this right here.
Oh,
You know, did I?
Yeah.
Oh shoot! I went through the whole show
I'm
without
I'm
pointing out
surprised we
that there is
filled
no relation to Roscoe P. Coltrane.
I'm surprised
Oh.
we filled up so much to talk about John Coltrane.
and
Yeah,
let,
about 10 minutes would be.
So I'm saying.
and when we first started the show, I'd like to try to end this show always the same way, and it's my goal to try to go back to that again. But to remember, like just like in my theme song, it says, in every record, there's a story to be told.
I got to close it out, and
Yeah.
now you put your lame shit on the end.
Oh man.
We'll see you guys next month.
Next month.
Oh my goodness.
Kenny's music and more, a place like no other. With records and cassettes, he's a music lover. Blues, rock, country, and more to explore. 10,000 vinyls and memorabilia galore. Come on down to the shop, there's something for all. Step into the world of music and more, where melodies and memories are in store. From Elvis to polka, we have it all. At Kenny's Music and More, you'll have a ball. A teacher and a DJ with a passion so deep. Kenny knows every lyric even in his sleep. His collection is unique, a treasure trove. In Bismarck, Indy, it's the place to just roll.